Hey everyone, welcome again to another episode of Inside Outlooks. As we've done in the last couple podcasts, we take questions from our current and former clients, and Matt and I look at them and we pick out good ones to talk about publicly. So Matt, what do we got today?
Today, we're talking about prioritization. How do you set priorities? I think underlying that is, do you set priorities? Right? Priorities happen on their own if we don't purposefully set them.
Welcome to another session of Inside Outlooks. I'm Dave Gorham, a mindset coach with a passion to make you show up as a superhero.
And I'm Matthey Walley, a mindset coach with a passion for being just a little bit cooler than Dave. Join us as we take a look inside so we can change the world around us.
And away we go.
So let's start with looking at how do you set priorities and how do you balance the two of, then when I say two, the personal life and the business life, career life. How do you balance those priorities? How do you merge them together?
Sure.
Do you merge them together?
Let's go with the obvious here to make sure we can catch everybody up that our coaching is not necessarily task-oriented or prescriptive-oriented. In this case, we're going to assume that the client who asked the question about struggling with setting priorities, they already know how to do things, right? So making a list, breaking it down into small steps, setting deadlines, and looking to delegate or outsource tasks, that is the basic ways to help you move through a task list or priority list of things. Assume that is not the struggle here. The struggle here is more about what do I do next?
Right. Or do other things pop up that then take priority, right?
Yeah.
Over the list of priorities you had, and how do you escape the rabbit trails, right? What do you
Rabbit
do?
trails. Yeah.
Do you actually sit down and go, okay, is this a big enough priority that I need to stop what I was doing or not do what I was planning to do and take this?
Absolutely. Yeah. What comes to mind is something as simple as, a loved one or somebody at work or somebody you live with, right? A significant other where you know what your priority is for that day, that week, or that month. And the other person brings you something else that is a big enough priority that will throw what you've already planned, throw a wrench in that. The desire and the pull is, I want to do what they are requesting me to do because I want to make them happy. It's part of me showing them that I love them.
Well, it's making them a priority, right? It doesn't necessarily, they're asking you to do is such a big priority, but for you, it becomes a priority because of the person asking and because of who you are.
Right. And I think therein lies the answer. The answer is, do you know who you are from a core values aspect? Do you know, as an example, for my example of a loved one, significant other, it's like, do you know what your love language is, which goes right back to really what's your skill set, what's your core values. If you know those things, then you can better identify what is the true priority here and break it down to whether or not it fits in. I think it was at one of the last conferences that we were at last year that someone gave me an interesting response to a request of yourself of, can you go do this for me? And one of the interesting, respectful responses was, my heart says yes. No, absolutely not. Go fuck yourself. Which I love. That's a great answer. And that's one that I would choose to say up front, go fuck yourself. But that's not who I want to be. But they gave me a great example of like, my heart says yes, my calendar says no. That's a version of prioritizing, right? You're being respectful of that person. You're taking consideration. You had to take it in consideration because you're talking about your calendar. And it seems so simple to what you're talking about is you've got a list of priorities here set up and you're moving on them. And someone else enters the conversation and says, here's another priority I want you to consider.
Sure. Yeah. And if it's, someone's just cut their finger off in your kitchen, your priorities change, right? You're going to rush them to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right?
Or go fuck yourself.
Right.
No, absolutely. Right. And we don't think about that. We don't think in the sense that, oh my God, they have ruined my priority list. They have ruined what I wanted to do. No. You leap into action and you handle that in your own way. So, bringing that down to a basic level, it's like, what are your core priorities here? For that example, it was like, like a life-saving event.
Right, for sure. I don't know what I experienced in my own life and with clients too is that there's no real chain of command in priorities sometimes, right?
No.
Like I've
Mhm.
got all these things I've got to get done.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to get this one and this one and this one and this one in whatever order. And maybe something else will pop up and I'll get that done too.
Mhm.
And so then sometimes from that, a personal life side of things struggles, right? Because the personal life has now, it's a priority. And yet it's been pushed down the totem pole because of all the other things that had to be done.
Sure.
Um,
Well, yeah.
and
So it's priority. That's a priority. That's a priority. That's a priority. That's a priority. By using the word priority, we have now, if everything's a priority, you say this, nothing's a priority.
right.
So to use that word, I think is a little dangerous when we're stepping into mindfulness and awareness and core values. Well, yeah, they're all priorities. I've got 100 priorities, but I only have so much time in the day and the week. So I need to pick what 10% of those priorities are going to give me the greatest impact for my life and my life outside of who I am.
And how do they relate to my values?
Yeah.
Right. If somewhere in the top 5 of my values is family, yet every day you allow work to be the priority so that you come home late and you get up early and leave and you don't have time and you can't focus in a conversation because you've got too many things coming in, how does that feed that value if family's truly a value? I never forget being in South Africa away from my family. I'm there for over a year. And I'm asked the question, now, one of your core values is family. It's interesting that you're thousands of miles away from them and have been for a year.
Yeah.
And I went, right? Like, wow, that doesn't align with that. So is that really a value? Right?
It's it's 2 questions in one.
Right, exactly. So I think a lot of times with all of this is, and maybe you and I need to just create a simple version of this for people, for clients, is how do I look at my priorities for a day, for a year, and then align them with values?
Yeah.
How to in because I think that can change what seems to be the top priority may suddenly be number 3 because when I look at my values, well, this is more important to me than that is.
Yeah.
And if I ignore it too long, it's going to come back to bite me.
Sure. Yeah. It's the deciding what to do next. A lot of times it's easier to decide what not to do and start to assign things that way. But then when you get into a more knowing of yourself, your values, it opens yourself up to, abundant possibility of things all around you. Now you're like, oh shit, abundant truly means abundant. There's all this stuff coming in. To me, it comes right back to that aligns with my heart. It doesn't align with my calendar. I've got to decide, do I want to make room in my calendar to do that based on what's already there? Right. Sure. So I can then that the new priority coming in will replace the priority that I already have written down. And we get into, I think, a little bit of a law of diminishing returns or loss aversion, where we've already committed to that priority. So I must have to do it. Yeah. When in reality, give ourselves a break and let's look at it and say, well, are things going to fall apart if that priority doesn't come true? We did another podcast about manifesting. Well, manifesting would be a version of what happens when that priority is successfully achieved or completed.
All right, I'm going to give you this. Then we're going to end on this thought. Okay, I want people to go away and think about this because you and I had a conversation before this. Let's think about how things replace other things. To me, a lot of times, some of our priorities have an expiration date.
Yeah.
And some don't. Or they have a longer expiration date. So for instance, this morning, I'm out in this beautiful area of Utah near Zion National Park. And I said to myself, I'm going to be up and out the door before the sun comes up over the rocks. To do that, I ended up saying I'm going to wait and brush my teeth when I came back. Now, brushing my teeth is obviously important.
Yep.
But it can happen when I come back. And if I don't get there, the sun's not going to wait for me, right? So there's an expiration date on the sunrise, longer expiration date on the teeth. And so sometimes we got to look at that some of these priorities, if you put off family too long, now you got another living being. It's like if you don't water a plant for too long, it dies, right? And so you've got to fit that priority in, even though it may seem like these things are more important because they're time sensitive too. It's finding that balance, right? So that our personal life and our business life go like this and not like this.
Yeah.
You like that? Cool.
Yeah, I do. It's very good. It's very trippy. Okay. Thanks for everyone for joining us in this conversation. So thanks, everybody.
Well said. Thanks.
Thanks for listening, and remember, your outside world is an inside job. See you next time. Hey, can we get 2 more over here? Make them double.